Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel and True Crime Spotlight, where we dive into the facts surrounding a particular case and explore every aspect involved. The case we are looking at today is one of premeditation, shock and horror, and with a combination of killers not often seen, two females. The females, Trudy Lennon and Gemma Lilley. The victim, Aaron Paige Sweetman. The crime is shocking and horrendous, but what makes it worse is that Gemma dreamed of this. You see, murder was on her bucket list. On this channel, we strive to advocate for victims and share their voices. With some stories, we hear more about the killers than those who were killed. In researching this case, there was a lot of information on Gemma Lilley, the killer, than our victim, Aaron. For this reason, you will hear more about her. 18-year-old Aaron Paige Sweetman was violently killed by Gemma and Trudy in 2016. Before we discuss the events of 2016 when this took place, we need to go back in time to get in the mind of the person behind this horrific act. Let's look into Gemma Lilley's past. Gemma Victoria Lilley, who comes from Stamford, Lincolnshire, England, was a very intelligent, artsy little girl who a family friend recalls watching her tinkling on the piano the first time he met her. At the age of 6, Gemma was reportedly diagnosed with dyslexia and autism. Gemma had a childhood filled with abuse from her own mother. The woman who was meant to love and nurture her was physically abusive and violent. Her mother was severely mentally ill and would reportedly display physical and psychological abuse towards Gemma and her sibling. Her father, Richard Lilley, told Channel 7's Sunday night program that Gemma's mother suffered a mental breakdown and joined a strict spiritual cult. Her father worked long hours, which meant Gemma and her sibling had no one to rescue them from their own mother and the trauma she inflicted. Richard states, "They've been beaten, locked in a bedroom for days. They've had to soil themselves in the bedroom. Nothing to eat. I tried for 2 years to try and combat it, so we ended up separated." Finally, as a result of the trauma Gemma experienced at the hands of her own mother, Gemma's parents did separate. Gemma's father gained custody of both her and her sibling, but things didn't get any easier from there. In order to provide for his 2 children, Gemma's father had to once again work long hours, which meant they were often left alone. As the years continue, Gemma becomes a fan of serial killer movies. Gemma's stepmother, Nina Lilley, tells news outlets that Gemma was attracted to violence from a young age. She would watch serial killer movies and scary movies and dress up like the killers. Gemma also had an interesting hobby of collecting kitchen knives. At the age of 15, Gemma uses her love of all things serial killers and writes a book called Playzone. The main character in her novel is a serial killer named SOS. This character is reportedly inspired by Son of Sam killer David Berkowitz. Gemma doesn't use her name and publishes the book under a pseudonym, Sin Demon. Many believe this book displayed her deepest, darkest thoughts. As of filming this video, the book is still available to purchase. According to the Amazon link, it was first published there on the 28th of January 2012. Here is the blurb of the book Playzone by Gemma Lilley. In the year of 1986, where the streets are busy and structured, lurks a killer, and where there is a killer, there is a killer community. SOS is the leader and shepherds his cult of maggots. He trains them to become the elite. He will need to train them well in preparations for P at SC. He works closely them and his brother. People always say keep your friends close, your enemies closer. SOS does just that as he taunts PC Bill and whoever else becomes too close to him. They soon become his puppets throughout his darkest schemes. With twists and turns around every corner, you will be taken on the ride of your life as you open the door of your mind for SOS. He will never leave you and he will never pay rent. Only an acceptance will survive. An autopilot mind is advised. And just to make it clear, I read that directly from the Amazon site, so that's exactly how it's spelt and how the grammar is for her blurb. Gemma was really excited about her book, and according to Nina Lilly, she spoke about the book any chance she could get. Much to Nina's dismay, Richard wanted to encourage Gemma with her writing, so he actually helped Gemma make a mask just like the one her killer wore in the book. Nina described Gemma as someone with little to no common sense, sinister, odd, as well as being very intelligent. She said Gemma was very immature for her age and didn't have many friends. Nina left Richard because she was so on edge living in the same home as Gemma. Nina tells the Daily Mail, "She'd always had an obsession with serial killers. I always felt on edge with her. I always felt unnerved by her. I don't think she has empathy." She felt no warmth or emotion from Gemma and stated, "I used to feel so trapped when she was here, so I left." Nina Lilly leaves because she truly believed Gemma Lilly was a psychopath who also possibly suffered from bipolar disorder. She felt that Gemma's behaviours were ramping up before Gemma made her move overseas. At the age of 18, Gemma makes a rather big life change and moves from England to Perth, Western Australia, on a working holiday. When she arrives to Australia, she works at a tattoo parlour and at the local supermarket Woolworths. It seems Gemma liked Australia because she wanted permanent residency. She marries her friend's gay brother, Gordon Galbraith, in 2012. He is dressed as Freddy Krueger and she is dressed as TV serial killer Dexter. Gemma would call her now husband Gacy because she felt he bore a striking resemblance to serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who dressed as a clown and raped and murdered over 33 young boys in the 1970s. Sadly, Gordon passes away in 2014 after a car accident, leaving Gemma widowed. Gemma continues to live in Perth despite her father wanting her to move back home. If she had done so, the next shocking events wouldn't have taken place. Aaron P.H. Sweetman would still be alive and Gemma Lilly could have gotten some help. But that's not what happens, and for Aaron, his fate is sealed. The year before Aaron's murder, Gemma writes to Robert Englund, the actor who plays Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I thought including this would show you how twisted her mind was. The letter says, "Dearest Robert, my name is Gemma Lilly. I'm originally from England and I'm a huge fan of yours. As strange as it may sound, I have always seen Freddy as a father figure, Papa Freddy, almost my guardian angel. You see, I have not had the best childhood. I know that many will have had worse. My theory, as dumb as it sounds, in life is that everything in the world is perfect if I get to hug Freddy. I painted you this canvas to show you my appreciation for all that you gave bringing Freddy to life, and hope that every time you look at it, you are reminded of how much you have done for me and probably many others. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and wish you the very best in everything you do. Love, Gemma." We move to 2016, the year of Aaron's murder. Before he meets his killer Gemma, the killers meet each other. Trudy Claire Lennon, a 42-year-old mother of 3, is a friend of Gemma's deceased husband Gordon. Trudy actually knew Aaron. She had studied at Kawana College with him, and her 13-year-old son Cameron was friends with him. They enjoyed playing video games together. In May of that year, Gemma moves into Trudy's home in Orelia, a southern suburb of Perth. Gemma's room is decorated with pictures and memorabilia of movie serial killers, especially those of the 80s. There are also drawings of a man's silhouette holding a knife on her desk. Later, police will discover at the scene Lily's knives and handwritten list of torture methods such as branding, force feeding, foot roasting, genital mutilation, and Chinese water torture. This obsession with all things serial killers attracted Trudy, and over the next 3 months, they spiral into a toxic, grotesque relationship that will end in murder. Trudy was involved in BDSM and called herself a submissive, which worked perfectly for Gemma as she was a dominant. With that, their relationship formed. Trudy went by Quivina, her BDSM name, whilst Gemma went by SOS. SOS sound familiar? It's the killer in her book Playzone. It seems that the fictional killer is jumping off the pages and moving into real life. In text and social media conversations, Trudy and Gemma would always use their role-playing names, and Gemma begins to obsess over SOS. On one of her motorbike number plates, it's 1SOS1. A jacket has SOS stitched into it. All pieces of art Gemma made has the SOS signature, and she even had an SOS tattoo. She had transformed into SOS and would soon live out what the pages of her book had written on them. She'd finally live out her desire, her bucket list item, to kill someone before she was 25. Before we go any further, let me explain about the bucket list. For those of you who don't know, a bucket list is a list of items you'd like to do before you kick the bucket, before you die. Most people have things like travelling to certain places, reaching appropriate milestones in their lives like getting married and having children. For Gemma Lilly, her bucket list included a desire only a psychopath would want to tick off: to murder. Gemma was determined to get that bucket list item crossed off her list, and before she turned 25. How old was she in 2016? 25 years old. Aaron Lee Page Sweetman is an 18-year-old male living in Waikiki, Western Australia. He has Asperger's, which is on the autism spectrum. Because of this, Aaron couldn't judge other people's moods or motivations. He wouldn't have known when someone was angry or if someone wanted to harm him. According to prosecutors, Aaron still inhabited a child's world. He was bullied at school and had trouble making friends. He had a passionate interest in computer games and was very talented with computer knowledge. For 8 years, Aaron lived in the same street as Trudy, and as already mentioned, he was friends with Trudy's son. Aaron's mother, Sharon Page, described him as an innocent, sweet boy. He was a vulnerable person because of his childlike state. He was someone who needed to be protected because of his developmental challenges and the fact that he was prone to wander. He would have trusted anyone, a complete stranger. But he knew Trudy Lennon. He'd known her for a large portion of his life. She wasn't a stranger at all. He trusted her, and she knew that, and she used that to her advantage. On 3 separate occasions before the murder of Aaron, Gemma and Trudy went on shopping trips to grab supplies they would need. Through surveillance, police discovered that the pair buy items from Bunnings, Australia's most popular hardware store, as well as a Rockingham salvage store. They buy a circular saw, acetone, bleach, a barrel, concrete, patio tiles, and 100 litres, 22 gallons of hydrochloric acid. From the items bought, it looks as if they plan to place Aaron in a barrel filled with acid. This is a premeditated murder. In fact, this is so premeditated that Gemma sets up a concealed room, a secret room, to hide her victim and her crime. Inside, there is a tiled floor, a gurney, and a wooden cabinet. Blue tarp is placed up the walls, which is very reminiscent of what TV serial killer Dexter would do when killing his victims. Remember this secret room. We're going to come back to it. Gemma and Trudy are ready for the murder. 13 days before the murder of Aaron, this text message exchange takes place. Gemma Lilly: I feel as though I cannot rest until the blood or flesh of a screaming victim is gushing out and pooling on the floor. I cannot shift this belief that the world has become not only ready for me, but it needs me to be ready. Trudy Lennon, it is definitely time. I am ready, you are ready. The plan was set for Trudy to lure Aaron to the home under the guise of helping them with their computer. Remember, Aaron loved computers. He was a sweet, naive young man who would have had no idea this meeting was anything but innocent. One of Aaron's former teachers, Megan Azar, told the Sunday night program that he would not have known he was in danger until the second she put that thing around his neck. Until physically she imposed herself on him, he wouldn't have sensed that danger. On June 13th, Aaron is driven from the home he is staying in at Waikiki to the Rockingham shopping centre by his landlady. Then Trudy, Gemma and Aaron meet at the shopping centre around 9 a.m. Around 10:30 a.m, the three of them are seen leaving the Rockingham shopping centre on CCTV camera footage. Residential surveillance cameras also catch Trudy, Gemma and Aaron entering the killer's home. It is the last footage of Aaron Sweetman Page alive. What ultimately happened inside that home on June 13th, 2016, only Gemma and Trudy know the truth. Aaron isn't alive for his voice to be heard. This is what we know. Trudy had asked Aaron to download computer software onto Gemma's computer, so he sat down at the computer desk with a coffee and got to work. As he innocently installed the software, Gemma Lilly approaches him from behind and garrots him with a wire. When that breaks, she produces a knife and stabs him 3 times to his neck and chest. His jugular vein is severed and his liver and lungs are punctured. According to Aaron's post-mortem, there is evidence that Aaron had defensive wounds. Aaron tried his best to fight back. After his violent murder, Gemma is seen on camera going outside the home whilst holding a knife. From evidence located at the scene, it appears the insidious pair had been experimenting with the hydrochloric acid and some form of meat. A large pot with those 2 items was photographed at the scene, and prosecutors believe Gemma and Trudy were attempting to dissolve the meat in the acid. The experiment must have failed, as the acid the pair bought, along with the barrel, weren't used in the disposal of Aaron's body. Instead, the secret room is where Aaron will lay for up to a week until the killers decide where to put his body. Aaron Sweetman Page's body was placed in a 30 centimetre, 11 inches deep grave. The tiles purchased prior to the killing were then placed on top of this young man's remains to create a patio area, as if nothing had happened. After this violent and vile killing, Gemma messages Trudy and says, "I'm seeing things I haven't seen before. I'm feeling things I haven't felt before. It's incredibly empowering. Thank you." Trudy replies, "You're welcome, SOS." When Aaron doesn't return to his home in Waikiki, his family report him missing and police investigate. Investigators discovered the last phone call on Aaron's phone is from Trudy on June 13th, the day he is murdered. 8 days after his murder, police would knock on the home of Trudy Lennon, her children, and Gemma Lilly. Investigators find the secret room 3 days after first coming into the home. They sledgehammer the lock off the door and discover the hidden room with human hair and blood inside. When police dig up the freshly laid tiles, they discover Aaron Sweetman Page's body. Gemma Lilly and Trudy Lennon are arrested and charged with murder on June 22nd, 2016. They both plead not guilty on October 26th of the same year. Trudy would tell investigators that she didn't bring Aaron home for Gemma to kill. Gemma will deny that she killed Aaron, but Trudy will say whilst she did not commit the murder, she was there when it happened and watched Gemma garrote then stab Aaron and assisted in cleaning up the crime scene. On the 2nd of October 2017, the trial begins and overwhelming evidence is shown of the pair preparing for the murder. Text message exchanges between Gemma and Trudy were shared in court. Here's some of those that have been publicly released. Trudy, I will fear you, but respect you. I would not challenge you. I would naturally submit to you. My fear would be because I am in awe and because I respect what you are and that I see you as my dominant. Gemma Lilly, 100% perfect. Trudy. Good morning, SOS. I wanted to say thank you for allowing me into your world. It read, accompanied by a meme of a dead body with the caption, every time someone dies in a movie, I stare at their chest and watch for breathing. Trudy Lennon. For me, the chance to see SOS in hunt mode excites and scares me. I so want to meet SOS, but I know that will be pushing new territory for both of us. Trudy. I feel so much more alive, my mind is opening up. I am becoming aware of my own darkness. Even now, just writing this highly erotic, I want to serve you. The prosecution shares that Trudy Lennon had searched for the website of the National Missing Person Coordination Centre and then the Wikipedia page Life Imprisonment in Australia following the murder. Gemma Lilly had searched for various things, including slit throat. One of Gemma's co-workers testified on the stand that 5 days after the murder, Gemma confessed to her that she and Trudy had killed Aaron. Gemma, however, states that she had no idea what happened, that she saw him last in the lounge room, but she went to the bedroom and fell asleep. On November 1st, a month after the trial began, it took the jury 2 hours to convict Gemma Lilly and Trudy Lennon of murder. On February 28, 2018, Justice Stephen Hall sentenced them to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for a minimum of 28 years. Justice Hall stated that the killers were morally repugnant, saying the woman killed Paige for their own pleasure and the pitiless pursuit of their own desires. Both women received the same amount of time for the killing. He stated, "You are both equally responsible. There can be no doubt that both of you intended to kill Mr. Page. There is nothing to suggest either of you had the slightest regret about what you have done." Following the sentencing, Aaron's stepmother Veronica Desmond said she hoped the pair would rot during their time in prison. "And I hope you live to regret what you've done," she added. Gemma appealed her conviction on April 10, 2019. Her lawyer, Simon Waters, stated that her book, Playzone, her interest in knives and her artwork shouldn't have been used as evidence against her. Waters argued that the book didn't resemble the way in which Aaron was killed, that his client's vast collections of knives showed the jury Lilly's propensity to kill, and showing the jury the drawings depicting someone being sliced was unfair and prejudicial to her. On October 22nd of last year, 2019, the Court of Appeal rejected the appeal and stated that the appeal didn't have any merit. Aaron's family were relieved when the appeal was denied and hoped that this was the end of the legal process so they could move forward and have some closure. Roland Holker, a family friend of the Lillys, tells the Western Australian newspaper after the trial he only saw Gemma once. He said, "She was in tears and I told her, 'I think you did it,' and she couldn't look at me in the eye." Richard Lilly has publicly stated that his daughter Gemma is innocent and that this has all been a setup. Gemma has maintained her innocence. On January 1st of 2018, Trudy Lennon would face prison justice for her crime when a fellow inmate would pour 2 litres of boiling water over her shoulders. Lennon suffered second-degree burns to 21% of her body, spending 2 days in the ICU, followed by 20 days in hospital. She recovered from the burns. There is no excuse for the actions of Gemma Lilly or Trudy Lennon. What they did was vile and grotesque. In exploring Lilly's childhood, I wonder if this gives us cause to answer the question of why this happened. Lilly's childhood was abusive and traumatic at the hand of her mother, and genetically she shared the same DNA with a mother who had severe mental health problems. Was this a case of Gemma's environment creating the killer, or was she just born evil? "28 years minimum in prison doesn't seem like long enough for me. Police have stated that they believe if she hadn't have been caught early on, she would have become a serial killer. Releasing her back into the public seems like a recipe for disaster, and I for one don't think she should ever be released." From all accounts I've read, Aaron seemed like such a sweet, innocent young man. He was preyed upon by evil, and as a result, his loved ones have to face a life without him. I cannot imagine the pain and heartbreak this has caused. If any of Aaron's family or friends are watching this, I would love to give Aaron more of a voice through yours in the future. I wish I knew more about Aaron instead of these two people who took his life. I would be honoured to tell more of his story in the future if that is something you would like to be involved with. My heart is with you as you walk your grief journey. Thank you for watching this week's True Crime Spotlight. Let me know in the comments what you think of this week's crime. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe. Be sure to click the bell so you're notified of when I upload or go live next. Until next time, bye for now.